friends, and thank you very much for being here this afternoon. I have a readout today of one of the meetings that took place this morning, following which I will be willing to answer any questions that any of you may have on that meeting. After that, the floor is then open as usual for any one of you to ask any other questions on anything that you may want to ask, and we'll do that in a sequential manner. Well, the External Affairs Minister today met the visiting Sri Lankan Minister for External Affairs, Professor Peris. This was Professor Peris's third visit to India. Those of you who are following it are aware that he was here in January when he met the then External Affairs Minister. Subsequently, he visited along with the President of Sri Lanka for the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister and his cabinet, a council of ministers, and this is his third visit to India. It shows the closeness of ties and bonds between India and Sri Lanka. He was, for the first time, formally meeting the External Affairs Minister. Of course, the two had met previously when the External Affairs Minister, as the leader of the opposition in 2012, had visited Sri Lanka, leading a delegation of members of parliament. The discussions, if I may try and encapsulate them, covered all substantive issues that India and Sri Lanka are engaged on an ongoing basis about. Primary to this are issues relating to the fishermen. And both ministers discussed this at some length and felt that there needs to be a longer-term solution to this problem. External Affairs Minister actually thanked Professor Peris and the President of Sri Lanka for having adopted what we feel is a fast-track approach towards repatriation of Indian fishermen who are taken into custody by Sri Lanka. In fact, during the course of this year, approximately more than 805 Indian fishermen have been repatriated or are being repatriated to India so far. They were in custody and have been released through this fast-track approach. And if one were to try and take those who have been repatriated since the new government came into power on 26th of May and onwards, it is, I think, 249. These 249 include 37 who have been released today. We are making arrangements for their return. So the numbers that we are talking of this year are much larger than any in the last 5 years. We did a tabulation since 2009, and we found that the numbers that have been released so far this year are the largest that have been in the last 5 years. Both Professor Peris as well as the External Affairs Minister felt that this needs to be addressed as an issue of livelihood, and we need to work on solutions on a longer term basis. Of course, there's no solution right now available on this, but as a gesture that the Sri Lankans have been releasing these fishermen, External Affairs Minister thanked him for this. There was also a discussion on economic ties. Perhaps you are aware that Professor Peris was in Hyderabad yesterday and to discuss with the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh about an investment from Sri Lanka into India. This is the largest Sri Lankan investment from Sri Lanka into India. It's approximately $1 billion. This relates to a garment city called Brandex, which is in Visakhapatnam, and currently it provides employment for about 38,500 Indian nationals. Broadly, there will be some in Sri Lankan nationals also, but approximately that's the number that we have in terms of. Also, there was a discussion about Indian investment into Sri Lanka, which is approximately of the same size over the last decade or so. Both the minister, however, felt while that investment is moving freely, there are issues with trade. India and Sri Lanka have approximately, I think, on last count, a trade turnover of about 4.8 billion during the last financial year. Now, this is slightly less than previous years. There are issues that need to be addressed, and both the ministers felt that it is time that both of us need to address these issues. Other than that, there was also a discussion on measures that Sri Lanka is taking in terms of initiatives relating to accountability and reconciliation on the island. And there was also a fairly detailed discussion on Indian development projects, and if any of you are interested, I can provide some information on those issues too, as well as on Indian projects in Sri Lanka in general. I think that's what, in a summary, I can say was the discussion. Yes, the Sri Lankan foreign minister has invited the external affairs minister to visit Sri Lanka at an appropriate date. As you are aware, India and Sri Lanka have a joint commission, and the external affairs minister has accepted this invitation. The dates will be worked out according to mutual convenience through diplomatic channels. I think I'll stop there, and if any of you have any questions on this, I'm willing to answer. Otherwise, we can go to the next issue. Yes, Padma Rao?
Akbar, you said that one of the things discussed by Professor Paris and Mrs. Swaraj was measures taken vis-a-vis accountability and reconciliation in Sri Lanka. My question to you is that you are aware that one of the things that the United Nations is pushing for is an international observers team to go to Sri Lanka. From the point of view of the Indian government, which sees such investigation from the outside in many, as let's say in over the issue of Jammu and Kashmir as an internal issue, what is India's official position on this UN team that wants to visit Sri Lanka? And also, please, if I'm allowed a part B, 13th Amendment, did you speak about it?
Only one question, choose, and I will answer the first question. Yes, there was, as you said, a fairly detailed presentation by Professor Paris about the initiatives that they are taking of their own national efforts for reconciliation and accountability. Now, as regards what you are saying is the outcome of the UN resolution, you are aware that A, we abstained on the resolution, but B, we also voted against that specific paragraph which was wanting to send a team. So our views are pretty clear on this. This is not about a country-specific issue. This is a matter of principle that we've always held. And you are aware that we have articulated why we feel so in terms of our approach to human rights. We feel that international bodies need to address human rights through a cooperative framework, not a punitive approach. And therefore, we have explained this at great length. There's no change in our position on what we stand for in terms of our approach to human rights issues in various countries, and specifically relating to Sri Lanka, as has been articulated previously at the appropriate forum in March. Yes, ma'am.
Did they discuss the issue of Sri Lankan refugees, asylum seekers coming to India, and did they discuss the boat of Sri Lankan asylum seekers that has been stranded on its way to Australia? And I'm asking that second part because there's a group in Tamil Nadu saying that about a quarter of those people have actually come from refugee camps in Tamil Nadu.
I think we discussed this with governments. Issues relating to refugees, etc., are discussed with governments. This issue didn't figure today. However, let me try and address your concerns on that. The government of Australia has not taken this issue up with us as yet. While all of you are very concerned about it, ultimately governments work with governments. And when the government of Australia takes this up with us, we will respond appropriately to those issues. At this stage, this has not been taken up with us. So obviously we are not discussing with another country about this. Yes. You would appreciate that this is not something that there is an outcome likely in a course of a discussion between two external affairs ministers. This is an ongoing discussion. I started off by saying that all issues of ongoing engagement between India and Sri Lanka were covered, and therefore, of necessity, those issues that you are referring to were covered. Yes, sir, Mr. Venkat.
In today's meeting, was there any discussion regarding the Senate putting the North Province area post the settlement? Instead of wherever the Tamils were living, now there are three people have been migrated, now the place which are empty. Now Sri Lankan government trying to settle the central administrative area. And what happened to the lands which are owned by the Chilim and Tamil? Again, that is a major problem which is facing the issue. Any solution?
Mr. Venkat, these are matters which have defied solution for quite some time. You are aware of this. There is an ongoing discussion and engagement between India and Sri Lanka on various aspects relating to the Tamil community in Sri Lanka. And there are several elements to that discussion which is an ongoing nature. So I will not get into the specific details of what was discussed, what was not discussed, because my idea is to provide you a broad understanding of where we are in the relationship, what are the broad issues discussed, and ultimately diplomatic communication can only be successful if these things are discussed in a way that we can move ahead, because the goal is to move ahead rather than to talk of these issues in public. So I'm not going to address specific issues that you raise on an individual basis. I have told you the rubrics under which we have discussed issues, and I hope that will suffice for the present, because diplomacy also requires time and space for diplomats to work on these issues. Yes, Ashwini?
So you mentioned about this $1 billion investment in Visakhapatnam Brandex. What exactly was the Sri Lankan, when this came up at the meeting, what exactly were they looking at? Any assurances from the center, anything like that?
You know, you are going down the same route. I explained to you that this was in the context of an investment climate between India and Sri Lanka. However, obviously, this was a symbol of how engagement and investment is flowing both sides. What exactly is this? You need to go down to Vizag and find out, rather than me getting into specifics of diplomatic discussions on that. What I want to tell you is that investment between India and Sri Lanka is a two-way process. That two-way process is exemplified from a Sri Lankan angle in India through this big garment city, which has more than 38,000 nationals from India working there. And the idea is to indicate to you that ultimately close relationships are a two-way street. Yes, sir.
There is a press release from the Sri Lankan government which is saying that both countries have agreed to deal with the fisherman issue with some practical arrangements. Shall I know what is the arrangements we have taken already, or is there anything discussion going on that international maritime borderline issue?
I do not know the press release that you are talking of. I do not know what it is. However, as I said right now, External Affairs Minister thanked the External Affairs Minister of Sri Lanka about fast-track approach for release of our fishermen. I've also told you how that fast-track approach has helped. 249 Indian fishermen have been released in less than 2 months. In fact, perhaps 6 weeks or so. A total of 805 Indian fishermen have been released in about less than 7 months. This is far, far more than the numbers previously. So, if there is a practical approach that is right now in place, that's what it is. As regards the longer term approach, there is a an understanding and an agreement of both sides that we need to address this. We are not down that road as yet, having addressed this fully. So once we address it, we certainly will share those details with you. But at this stage, there is only an understanding that this needs to be addressed. Yes, Deepanjan?
Did the issue of this recent riots in Sri Lanka come up between the Buddhist and in any way in this meeting?
No. Next. Yes.
Sir, did India reiterate about the implementation of the 13th Amendment and going beyond it?
I already told you our stated position is well known. I don't need to every time tell you. I said that all issues of a substantive nature where there is an ongoing engagement were taken up and discussed. And please do understand that I am trying to give you a summary of a meeting which is more than 2 hours plus. So of necessity, that summary is going to be, by your reckoning, cursory. But by my reckoning, I am here to provide you broad contours, not specific details. Yes, Rajiv?
Akbar, did the issue of Kachatevu was raised by either side, and what is the current status? Because last year the UPA government had told the Supreme Court that no island has been ceded to.
I will only answer one question. Just take the mic, I'll answer. The answer to your first question is no. Yes. Anyone else on? Otherwise, we move to something else. I mean, let's follow the norms that we all have agreed to. If senior journalists willfully violate these norms, then I don't know what it sets for others. Repeatedly, you are violating those norms. My request to you, please, is ask one question and I will answer that. And there are others here who will ask other questions and I will answer those too. I am not answering any more. Yes, anyone else? Okay, anything else? Yes. Amrita?
Akbar, the question is on Iraq. The families of those who are still trapped in Mosul conveying to one of my colleagues, as you can understand, their anxiety and frustration. And also articulating they feel that the government hasn't done who were brought back. Is there any reassurance you can give them or update on the situation?
Amrita, I think we need to understand that a zone of conflict and a zone of war is an immensely difficult situation. It is a situation not of our making. It is a situation over which we have no control. It is not a situation where there are normal diplomatic channels available or possible to be used. And I do understand, and we do understand, the difficulties and the travails of the family, and let me assure them through you that every effort is being done. Every possible effort, well beyond diplomatic possibilities, are being explored. Now, I do understand several of you repeatedly ask me, what is the situation today? And my answer to that previously has been that if there is a change in the status, we will certainly share with you. After all of you are aware, no news is always good news. None of you will report good news. And therefore, as far as I am concerned, that is the norm that I have been following in terms of not getting on a day-by-day commentary basis. However, if there is a reassurance that needs to be provided to the families, I can confirm now that this is only for the sake of those families, that yes, we have, even as of since the last time I met you, had through interlocutors contact with the Indians in captivity, and the information that we've got from them is that they are unharmed but remain in captivity. Yes, Manish?
Akbar, Prime Minister Modi is traveling to Brazil for the BRICS summit, and he's also going to have a set of bilateral meetings. Is there any is there greater clarity now about his specific bilateral engagements, and if so, what are these?
When you last asked me this question, I said that we are in the process of working out details. Let me confirm to you that yes, it is normal for us to have bilateral engagements with BRICS leaders. However, given that this is a multilateral meeting, such bilateral arrangements are on the margins of the multilateral meeting. So those bilateral meetings can only take place during BRICS or prior to those meetings, because the primary focus is on a multilateral event. Let me assure you, we are working on ensuring that there will be meetings during those BRICS. Those BRICS are in terms of a little bit flexible, because as you know, once leaders start their discussions, they tend to overrun. And this happens all the time, whether in all multilateral fora, that we presume that the meetings will end at a certain time, but they overrun. And therefore, at this stage, if I share with you the timings of those meetings, you would then tell me, well, 2 o'clock there was no meeting, because 2 o'clock maybe there is a overflow of the meeting of the bilateral event. But let me assure you that there will be substantial meetings with senior BRICS leaders, with the Prime Minister of India. Yes, sir. Srinjoy? Anybody else on BRICS, and then we go one by one. Yes, Naz? And then we go one by one, so that we don't need to come back. Yes, please take the mic and ask.
Yeah, I just want to know the composition of the Prime Minister's delegation to the summit.
The Prime Minister will be assisted by the Minister of State for Commerce, Independent Church. He will also have along with him the National Security Advisor, and there will be several secretaries to Government of India who are responsible for specific areas relating to the BRICS. Anyone else on BRICS, and then we move to something else. Right, Srinjoy?
This is on the UN soldiers issue. Your
UN soldiers?
the UN, yes.
Yes.
Your Pakistani counterpart has said that these measures are inconsequential and do not have any legal impact on the legal state of the dispute. And the mandate as far as the UNSC's thing at 51 remains. Would you like to comment on that?
Srinjoy, these are statements addressed to you. I never address any of those terms, and also I never address these things in terms of the last century. We talk of our relationship with our neighbors in terms of the present, the here and the now, and the future. We are not looking back to the last century about issues which we are very clear about. And you are aware of with clarity what we have articulated. Yes. Dr. Akhilesh Suman?
Sir, Mr. Burns was here, and I think he is
So
here.
I presume that this issue is now over, nobody else. Yes, Gaurav. Let's finish one by one.
Does India want Unmogip out of that residence, or we want them out of Jammu and Kashmir and we want them out of India?
Gaurav, you said it all. Yes, next. Yes, Geeta?
This is again on Unmogip. The letter that was sent was for them to vacate the building in Delhi. Is there any such thing on the building that they occupy in Srinagar and their posts in Jammu, Poonch and Rajouri, because they still have officials facilitating their travels?
Geeta, I think when I last clarified, I said this is part of rationalizing the presence of Unmogip. All we have said is that there are several measures that we have taken to rationalize the present and to monetize the facilities being provided to them, in addition to what we have done here in New Delhi. And that's where we stand. I think I was very clear. It's available on the record. And you're also aware of our generic position on that. So I don't want to again repeat a position that we've been repeating for about 40 years. Yes. Santosh?
सर, पाकिस्तानी विदेश मंत्रालय ने बोला है कि विदेश सचिव स्तर की वार्ता जल्द होने वाली है और उनके विदेश सचिव ने भी ये बोला है, तो सर इस पे क्या चल रहा है, कब तक बैठक होगी, कोई तिथि निश्चित हो गई है क्या?
संतोष, आप जानते हैं विदेश सचिव ने पहले कुछ बात कही थी, उन्होंने कही थी वी विल बी इन टच। तो अगर मैं हिंदी में इसको ट्रांसलेट, इसका अनुवाद करूं, सो पहले बात होगी, उस बात के बाद मुलाकात देखते हैं, पहले तो बात तो होने दें। यस, शैलेंद्र।
सर, आरुषा में जो ब्लास्ट हुआ था उसमें 8 इंडियंस जख्मी हुए थे, उनका स्टेटस बता सकते हैं क्या है, और साथ ही साथ इसमें जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन जो हुई है क्या कुछ शेयर किया है आपके साथ तंजानिया ने?
Yes, we have been in touch with the local government both in Dar es Salaam and in Arusha. There were 8 Indians who were injured in that blast. However, 5 of them were moved to another hospital in Nairobi, and I understand since then they are not in danger of any sort. One Indian national who was in the local hospital has had serious injuries. He is being assisted by a consular officer from our mission in Dar es Salaam. We have also taken this up in Arusha. So at this stage, what I can confirm to you is that both in Arusha and in Dar es Salaam, this matter has been taken up by our mission with the competent authorities, and we will work with them and seek any responses as and when they come in, and if necessary, we will share them with you if you still want to follow that. Yes, sir.
This is a question about Afghanistan. As you're aware, there's been concern expressed of large-scale electoral fraud in connection with the recently held presidential elections, and U.S. Secretary of State Kerry is in Kabul today addressing these concerns. Are these concerns you share, and more importantly, have you engaged with the Afghan government at any level to try and facilitate some kind of an outcome?
I think I've answered that some time ago about our approach to this entire issue. That said, unlike others, the South Asian way is to do these things in a manner that need not be shouting from the pulpit. So we are engaged. Obviously, Afghanistan and India have a relationship which is across all sections of Afghan society. All the candidates are friends of India, and therefore, if there is anything that we can do to assist in that process, certainly we'll be doing. Yes, Madam Anita.
अकबर, अफगानिस्तान में एक तमिल लड़के का किडनैपिंग हुआ था, उनके बारे में कुछ पता चल पाया है?
जहाँ तक मेरी समझ में है कि अभी तक उस केस पर कुछ और मुझे इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है, तो मैं अगेन एज आई सेड, देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन रिपीटिंग अ सिचुएशन where there is no change. So I can confirm to you that there, as far as we are concerned, there is no change in what I last told you. Yes, Dr. Akhilesh Suman.
Sir, William Burns was here, so can you throw some light on the visit?
I think he has thrown quite a lot of light. He is on television saying what he well, if you would like me, let me try and encapsulate again. The visit was to chalk out pathways to the forthcoming strategic dialogue, as well as the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister to the United States. So what we've begun now is a process whereby paths are being chalked out. Now these paths obviously are of very broad nature, because India and the US have an extremely deep relationship. You are aware of the number of fora in which we interact, both bilaterally and multilaterally. So our effort is to have a strategic dialogue which paves the way to a summit level meeting with concrete outcomes. And that's what the process that has been initiated by Deputy Secretary Burns is all about. Anyone else? To Pakistan? Yes, sure. Last question.
As you said, sir, कि पहले बात होगी फिर मुलाकात होगी. Should we presume कि जब से टच में होने की बात आई है तब से बात तक नहीं हुई है?
नहीं, I think I will like to recall what the Foreign Secretary said then. बात तो कई तरीके से होती है. She also said we have diplomatic missions there and here. Sure, our diplomatic missions are in touch, and you are aware every time they come in contact us, you get the information. So you are aware of, they have been contacts, certainly as diplomats there are regular contacts. लेकिन अगर आप पूछ रहे हैं कि दोनों विदेश सचिवों की बात हुई, मेरा जवाब है पहले बात होने दीजिए, उसके बाद मुलाकात होगी. No, I think we will end this right now. Thank you very much.